So good afternoon from Gothenburg, Nebraska. My name is Brian Olson, and I wanted to talk to you about residue. Just like the title would indicate, to me, that is something that we're going to see a lot of value from this residue as we look into the spring here of having some pretty dry conditions as we look at planting and our crops for this summer. Residue is going to play an important part in success out there on those dryland fields and some limited irrigated fields. So why is that? We're currently looking at some pretty dry conditions as we go across Kansas, eastern Colorado, and western Nebraska. You'll start seeing some of that dark orange. That would be that D2 severe drought rating. And in fact, in far southwest Kansas, you can pick up that extreme drought rating as we look at the rest of the state, most of Kansas and Nebraska are also in that moderate drought, and the drought is moving farther east. And so it's becoming quite widespread. We need to understand the implications of that. Obviously, going out and doing field cultivation or disking of a field, whenever that happens, we're just releasing moisture out of the soil. And so we really need to minimize disturbing that soil. There might be some operations like a strip till operation on irrigated ground, putting the fertility below the soil surface, or maybe injecting some fertilizer such as nitrogen below the soil surface, below the residue, but doing it with minimal soil disturbance is going to be the key, because anytime we're opening that ground up, we're potentially releasing moisture. And again, if we're very aggressive out there, we can release quite a bit of moisture, maybe a half inch to 3/4 of an inch of moisture with one field operation. And it's pretty obvious looking at this map that we need to go through there and minimize that and trap as much moisture and save that for a growing crop. And so we're set up for a spring where, again, conditions may be difficult. Obviously, I hope that we get some big spring rains come in. But right now, we need to understand that we need to plan on, having a dry spring and really maximizing the amount of residue we keep out there on that soil surface in order to decrease evaporation. And so as we look at residue, wheat is a great crop to establish a high amount of residue out there in the field. It really does a good job in the amount of residue left out there after wheat harvest. And then if you've got standing corn stalks or standing wheat stubble, it goes through and captures snow over the winter. But unfortunately, we haven't had a lot of snow in Nebraska. I think there's been a few snowfalls that occurred down in Kansas that were of significance, but overall we're just behind with respect to the amount of moisture that we got over winter here. And obviously it'd be great if we have, a week of nice spring rains come in that give us 5-6 inches of moisture. But that may not happen, and we definitely need to go through there and see residue as a friend to minimize evaporation. And so it does protect that soil surface. It protects the moisture from the wind and the sun. And so anytime we have any moisture leaving that ground, we want it to be transpired by the crop. We don't want it to be evaporating off the soil surface, transpiring through the crop, so the crop is getting some value out of that moisture. And as we look at this crop being planted into corn stalks or planted into wheat stubble, I mean, the ground is covered, right? A nice, heavy, thick residue layer out there. And this might be something that for our farmers over in eastern Nebraska and eastern Kansas, they may not be as familiar with using these high residue systems as farmers in the west. But as we looked at that drought monitoring map, this would be something I would highly encourage everyone to really consider on their dryland ground, understanding that there might be certain circumstances that it may not be as favorable, but going through and opening ground up when we've got a lot of dry conditions persisting out there is not going to give your crops the best chance of success. So please take an opportunity to take a step back, evaluate what you're going to be doing this spring, and really try to promote ways that are going to ensure that we got as much residue as we can out there on that surface in order to again minimize evaporation. Also, if we do get some big rains, that residue will basically absorb some of the energy of that raindrop hitting that residue, allow for better infiltration of that water into the soil profile. So there's a lot of benefits out there from having the residue. And so please just take some time to think about that because, again, it's looking like a challenging spring here for moisture. So with that, we will talk to you in the future about other agronomic topics from the Learning Center. Thank you.
Thanks for watching this video from the Gothenburg Water Utilization Learning Center. For more information, please call 308-537-4500.